Okay, let's do this. Part 2. Who is really Ganesha? I'm getting itching maybe because of the sunlight, so I had to put the t-shirt on. I took some time to record this video. It was supposed to come just after the Ganesh Visarjan, but I wanted to imbibe it. This time, for the first time in my life, I brought Ganesha home for 10 days. I did Aarti twice. I'm privileged nowadays that I have the freedom of time, so I can explore these things, and I'm trying to make best use out of it, because once my daughter she starts going to school, then I won't be having this time. So now she's the reason that I can spend so much time in order to explore these things. Now, when I was doing my process for 10 days, twice in a day, and simultaneously I was reading about Ganesha, Vedas, Puranas, Tantras, and those 10 days were amazing. And one day when I was meditating, during the meditation when I was chanting Om Gam Namaha, Om Gam Namaha, and I got this desire within me that I asked Ganesha himself, who are you? I want to experience you. Allow me to experience you. And when I came out of my meditation, there was one book on my desk by Paramahansa Yogananda. The book is called Science of Religion. And I randomly started reading it. And I came across a text where it says, if you want to experience the ultimate, the God consciousness, the only way out is the intuition. Without intuition, you cannot experience. I took it as an omen or as a message from Ganesha himself that that's the way. And therefore, I decided to fast for Navratri. And again, this is happening first time in my life. Today it's 8th day when I'm recording this video. I have been on fruits from last 7 days. But yesterday night I gave up because I went for hiking, and when I came home I was literally shaking because there was no energy. So I had to eat peanuts and sabudana. And again, first time in my life I have realized the potency of peanuts and sabudana. They are really powerful because instantly I felt it's like somebody injected energy in my body. So yeah, I'm working on my intuition to understand, not understand, to experience Ganesha in its full depth. But right now, whatever is in my experience, or I would rather say in my intellectual understanding, that's what we are going to talk about. Before I start, discussing about Ganesha in Vedas and Puranas and all the text, I would like to mention one more observation here. I have friends around the world because of my work as a brand strategist, and also involved in different spiritual circles. Now I'm going to talk about 3 of my friends. One is from Germany, another one is from Sydney here in Australia, and the third one is from US. They all are ladies. One is in 30s, one is in 50s, and one is maybe late 40s. And since I have been exploring Ganesha, and somehow I come across the stories, and all 3 of them roughly from Christian background, no relation with Hinduism, but they all have Ganesha in their house in terms of pictures or photos or art or painting. But most important part, one of us or 2 of us, I think, 2 of them mention about seeing Ganesha in their dreams. And that made me dig further or contemplate on this, that how come somebody is not having any background in these deities and they become almost like devotee. They are devotee, not almost, they are devotees, and they experience these things in their dream. So Ganesha is really fascinating. Most of us, we think we know Ganesha, but after watching this video, you might doubt, because that's what exactly happened with me when I was studying about him. We think Ganesha is elephant-headed, riding a tiny mouse, lover of sweets. But when we dig further, when we go deeper from the perspective of Vedas, Puranas, Upanishads, Tantras, then you find he is more complex than you think. Consider the Vedas. In Vedas, when you read, there is Ganpati, but not the Ganpati which we know as. Ganpati is used as a title, mainly for, he's also known as Bharaspati in Rig Veda, and there is one mantra which is Gananam Tava Ganapatim Havamahe, which says, we invoke you, Lord of the host Ganpati. Here they are describing him as Bharaspati, who is the Lord of prayer and speech. And in other hymns, he's also known as Ganpati, also known as Indra, Agni, Rudra, and even Varuna. And overall, he is the title for these forces, for different forces. He is not elephant-headed yet. When you go to Upanishads, in Upanishads, he is the ultimate consciousness. And Upanishad gives this mantra, Om Gam Ganpate Nama, and where he becomes ultimate reality. And then you move to Purana. And even within the Purana, there is not just one story. One of the famous story we all know, that Ganesha was born when Parvati was going for bathing. So she made him out of her dead skin to guard him when she is going for bath. When Shiva enters and Ganesha stops him and he gets angry, he takes his head off and then he restores his head with elephant. That's the story we know. But there are many Puranas, like 18 main Puranas, and then there are many sub-Puranas. When you go in Brahma Vaivarta Purāṇa, in that Purana, Ganesha is born as a son of Parvati, like normal child delivery. And he is born as the manifestation of Krishna. So that's another form. When you go to Mudgala Purāṇa, which is Up-Purana and Sub-Purana, which is dedicated to Ganesha only, he has 8 forms, 8 different forms. And this is really interesting, especially when you think from a psychology point of view. And these 8 forms are, I have a list because I can't remember, Vakratunda, and Vakratunda defeats Matsasura. So basically it means, Matsasura means jealousy or envy. Ekadanta, he defeats Madasura, pride or arrogance. So there are different stories that in different forms he is defeating these demons. Mahodara, one of his name, where he defeats Mohasura. So Moha means greed or attachment. Gajavaktara defeats Lobhasura, which means Lobha means another form of, again, greed or possessiveness. And then Lambodara defeats Krodhasura. Krodha means defeating your anger. Vikata defeats Kamasura. Kama means desire or lust. Vignaraja defeats Mamasura. Mamasura means egoism or the sense of mine or the I-ness, which is the limited identity, the separate self from the ultimate. Dhumravarna defeats Ahankarasura, again false ego or ignorance of the true self. And for me, this was, because that's how I have been interpreting these deities. That the idea of God and demon, they are within us. Just like I'm observing this fast of Durga, so I can kill the demon Rakta Bija. And if you see that picture where Durga is killing the Rakta Bija by holding his tongue. To me, the tongue is the representation of ego. And I can say it from my experience, because right now I'm on the 8th day of my fasting. The only thing I think about when I'm very hungry is food. But rather than food, I am very calm, composed, peaceful. Maybe you can see in my aura when I'm speaking, because I am in that journey now. So that's how Ganesha is being represented in Mudgala Purāṇa. But he's not limited to only 8 forms in Mudgala Purāṇa. It goes beyond 8 forms. There are total 32 forms, and few of them are very famous. They stand out, which one are Mahaganpati or Shakti Ganpati. You can see in these pictures. Uchishta Ganpati, and then there is Heramba. And there are many texts. I think there is one text called Sri Tattva Nidhi, which also talks about 32 forms of Ganesha. And you better check this out. You know, if you want to understand Ganesha, you can simply Google 32 forms of Ganesha and you see the different pictures. Now we will move to Tantra. And this is where I was completely awestruck when I was reading about Ganesha in Tantra. So Heramba Ganpati is, I think he's very famous in Nepal, where he has 5 elephant heads, and here he is not riding mouse, but he is riding lion. So he is very, fierce. So he is not, lovey-dovey lover of sweets with great belly, big belly, but he is in his fierce form. And when you move to Uchishta Ganpati in Tantra, you witness here Ganpati and Lakshmi, Lakshmi as a form of Shakti with Ganesha in this sexual union. And this is a bit triggering or almost taboo for those they haven't seen Ganesha in this picture. But that's what that's what Tantra does with you. It takes you beyond this idea of good and bad, ugly or sacred or impure or pure, all those things. Because from Tantra perspective, everything is the representation of the ultimate reality itself. And especially when you are struggling in your life because you are judging yourself because of your past actions, and when you see the way Tantra is describing deities like Ganesha, it's very revolutionary to think about, and that's what inspires me to have my own interpretation towards these stories, towards these deities. Imagine the idea of Uchishta Ganpati. Somebody had come up with this idea, and that person had to battle not just with the society but with his own notion to imagine or to describe Ganesha in this picture. And you have to see this Uchishta Ganpati's picture very carefully to understand what exactly I'm talking about. Because in our society, sex is taboo. But when you see these pictures, we put God in this higher pedestal. We think God are pure and an activity like sex is impure. But when you see God and goddesses in the act of sex, it changes a lot. And that's what my intention is with this whole Project Light idea or project, that when you put things together, when you don't judge life or judge these stories or interpret these stories just from one lens, when you look at them from a multi-dimensional lens, it's not just about the stories, but your perspective, your interpretation towards your own stories, towards your own life, your events, it starts changing. And that's what I think the real reason behind Puranas, because every single Puran is contradicting the other Puran. For example, in Shiva Purāṇa, Shiva is the center. In Vishnu Purāṇa, Vishnu is the center. In Devi Bhagavad Purāṇa, Devi is the center. You can pick many battles with demons. In Vishnu Purāṇa, it says Vishnu is killing Madhu and Ketab, but Devi Purāṇa says because of Devi, Vishnu is able to kill Madhu and Ketab, and Devi is the real force. Devi is beyond or higher than Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. But when you put everything together, then you realize what exactly they are trying to say. And that's what I was saying. In order to understand these things, it's really difficult to do it with intellect. You can begin with intellect just to give you that start, that there is something deeper than what my intellect is trying to grasp. But for that, I think you have to use your intellect to its limit, and that's what I'm trying to do with myself and with my project Light. Now next is I think we covered everything. Now I'm going to leave you with this thought. After seeing all those things, after exploring the Ganesha from different lenses, from the lens of Vedas, from the lens of Upanishads or Puranas or Tantras, that do you really know Ganesha? And if you are simply accepting somebody else's definition or interpretation, does it really help you to go anywhere with these things? When you go on YouTube and when you try to learn about Ganesha, whenever the Ganesh Chaturthi comes, these videos, they start popping up, and we start parroting these stories, that this is the story, that is the story. But there is no one definitive story, because the idea is not the story, but the idea is the essence. And the day you understand the essence, everything changes for you. For me, Ganesha is the intelligence which creates which creates order out of chaos. That is the intelligence. Physics calls it gravity. Psychology or philosophy calls it intellect. And there is one more version in Tantra which calls Ganesha Lord of Letters, because they describe the whole, four different forces of the universe. Physics calls it the strong force, weak force, nuclear force, or gravity, or electromagnetic force. Like that, there are four forces, like strong force, weak force, gravity, and electromagnetic force. The way Tantra describes that everything starts from the point where Apara Bindu, the silent point, Shiva, the Parabindu, silent point Shiva, and Apara Bindu, energy, Shakti, when they both meet, they create nada. So nada is not just the sound, but it's unmanifested sound, which has the potential to be manifested. And when they both come together, it creates nada, and then nada becomes the sound, and sound becomes the word, and then word gives you the meaning. Now, in order for sound to become a word and word to become a language or meaning, the force behind which puts them together is Ganesha. That's why Ganesha is being invoked or remembered in the beginning of everything, because without that intelligence, without that force, you cannot put two things together, you cannot initiate anything, you cannot start anything. And this is the task of intelligence, to personify that intelligence into a character, into an image, into a deity. But that deity is useful only when you understand the essence. Otherwise, it's just the pure dogma. I think my daughter is awake and my wife is somewhere else, and this is the alarm to finish the video. I hope I was able to give you some food for thoughts from this video, and I will leave you with this intention that do you really know Ganesha, and if you don't know, do you have the intention to know him? Om Gam Ganpate Namah.